Say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so with 2-1 it passes, we'll be moving it forward to the Board of Finance and try to get that motion rewritten right up with that. Hopefully we'll be able to do it on the recording, although I just heard from Jen that we haven't been. So 2-1, and to the end of the
You wrote that motion.
Jen's unable to, hear the probably, I'll give them the first 5 minutes.
Picking up from now going forward.
Okay, so. we can-
So did you not hear the entire motion of the voting? Is that what you should-
Yeah, I, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, so we're done with that. Call town meeting discussion. So we want to call for a town meeting on November 25th, which is, and that's it's going to be 6, on the town meeting, about 6 possibilities of things that's on the call. We approve the call, the 6 things will be talking about. Number 1 is show the town of North London approve the amended 5-year local capital improvement plan for the fiscal year 2025, 2029. It's also called the LoTIP plan. I gave you the updated copy on the investment that we can. Second is to hear and act upon the following resolution. Resolved, the Board of Selectmen is hereby authorized and empowered to obtain loans at current interest rates for loans to municipalities in anticipation of receipt of tax collections and in anticipation of receipt of federal and New York State grants with respect to a project or program on such terms and conditions as follows. The amount borrowed should not exceed $1 million at any one time. B, the Board of Finance shall receive as early as possible prior notification to any borrowing, and the Board of Selectmen is further authorized and empowered to execute any and all documents necessary and required. This is something that's done every year. It's a formality. It just means if the what hits the fan, we have the ability to borrow the money. Number 3, shall the town approve an additional appropriation of funds from the undesignated fund, which says exist, in the amount of $58,000 for the Assacon Border half-mile ETA accessible nature hiking trail. This appropriation has already been approved by the Board of Finance. We just have to go to the town meeting. It's $20,000. Shall the town approve an additional appropriation of funds from the undesignated? Shall the town amend Town Ordinance Section 8-9 private roads and approve the town maintenance approval to add the word grading to the Armstrong Pentway, which is 0.41 miles, and Cedars Road, which is 0.62 miles. I do have in your packet, there was some estimates that Alan had done on what that would cost the town. The grading on Armstrong Pentway would be $1,492.64. And if we graded Cedars Road, it would be $2,088.96. At this point, it'd be 1 grading per year. All of the other 6 out of the other 8 towns that were approved during, and shown as the first Selectmen in 2016, these 2 roads did not have the word grading attached. We wanted to do it for the Armstrong Pentway residents, and as Brett mentioned, that would leave Cedars as the only one that did have the amended ordinance to have them have grading also. So we didn't want to do it for one and not the other. This would be all 8 roads to an equal standard as far as, at least as far as grading. Next, shall the town clerk be allowed to publish an abbreviated version of the legal ad regarding the notice of passage? It's just, we have to, and Suzanne had talked to Anton about this. In the future, we can change, make new ordinances. We don't have to do this at a meeting. We'll talk about that at a later date, but since we haven't done that, Internet has to have this in the town meeting so she can publish an abbreviated version of this change of ordinance. The last, Shall the town demolish the cabin at 3 Hewitt Road using funds in the capital project fund number 3259, abate and demo of town buildings? In your packet, there was also a sheet that told you how much money is in that capital fund that we save for. This actually happened again during, when Sean Murphy was the first selectman, money was put aside. I'm afraid that building is getting dilapidated. I'm afraid someone's gonna get in and get hurt. It's easy to get into. It's not secured. We did take asbestos and PCBs out of here. And on that same, asked Alan for a quote on what it would take, what cost our man to take that building down. And it was $2,764.64 for us to take that down, remove it, bring it up to the bulky waste pile. And actually, we're gonna put some wood aside for the Conservation Commission, who is willing to take that wood and fix the corn crib that's down near the community garden. So that is what would be on the call for the meeting on 25th. Is any discussions?
What, can I just ask a quick, can you remind me what the grant is for the ADA accessible trail?
Right, so it's a trail that's between.
No, I know that, like, what was the grant for? Like, we're taking 58,000 out. We're gonna get
The entire 58,000 back. It's a 20% match, but the match is coming through in-kind work by the town's highway fund.
okay. And our, like,
We get that money once we.
That's right. Once we sign it, we get
and
all those grants work.
are they, is Bill or somebody from the Conservation Commission gonna speak at the town meeting, or?
Yes, no, I can present, but he said he'd be there to speak on it if he wants. So it was a process. We actually applied for this grant, got turned down the first time. Not because of the quality of what the grant was, it was because there was so many people asking for money and it wasn't enough. The second time through, we put the same grant through again, and we got approved the second time. So he will speak at the town meeting.
Okay. So I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion?
It has nothing to do with the call of the motion, but in the picture, how old is that? Is there electrical wires connected to that? Do we have to get the electric company out? Is that free charge? So there might be a slight cost above that.
And do we have to do a call before you dig? Yep, that's what I thought. Excuse me? Okay.
Can we leave the chimney for now?
When you take it down, there's the last thing stand, and then you can ask him if you should, we see what it looks like before we got it.
Cool.
You would depend on how secure.
Yeah.
So I think it is important to let the residents know as they're voting on this, that like any of the grant stuff, that money is coming back.
Yeah.
Because I think that will cause
Absolutely.
like red flags if we don't put that wording out there for people.
Yeah.
Even when we post that call, I think maybe give a little write-up on our town website of, hey, this is the call, this is the program, just so people have a handle on it that might not.
Yeah, but it's.
We can put some information on any of these.
Yeah.
The paid and demo right now is 21,000 in the project, capital projects fund. It's been sitting there for a while. And this is going to only take a small portion of that away.
I love that we're putting speakers in and not just Armstrong, so I think the residents in both roads will be happy that we're gonna be maintaining some.
You guys have the picture of the cabin in your packet, right?
Not in color like yours, but yes.
I noticed the wires.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. And I'll give this to Antoinette because we have to advertise it. After town meeting. Put it in the 25th. Appropriation of funds, so we have another appropriation in your packet. Solution today.
Now, so with the-
So the appropriation packet, B901 travel recognition for $14,992.78. to satisfy the Perkins Cooley invoice number 7119690. And underneath that, you'll see an explanation of the, how I arrived at the 14,992.78. The total invoice amount was 30,652.20. There's, the North London contribution on anything with Eastern People is 80%. It's down to 24,521.76. Minus previously paid amount of money to Perkins School of 8,094.88. Minus available balance in the budget line number B901 of 1,434.10, which means just a grand total of 14,983.90. I'm filled by the Board of Finance, so I can bring that to the board. Board of Selectmen, so I can bring it to a Board of Finance for a appropriation. This would not go to town meeting because it's not over $20,000.
I'll make a motion to, approve, and send to the Board of Finance an appropriation in addition of $14,992.78 to Perkins Cooley for, tribal recognition, work.
I'm thinking the packet to you back up to that. On what those challenges before.
I'll second. Going forward, I know we talked about it in the past. Is there a way to put a document in place of the percentage that we are willing to pay amongst the other towns based on if it, I know you guys use the calculation based on if it's primarily focuses on North Stonington, we pay, like here we pay 80% compared to the other town. Is there a way to put any guidelines in that so moving forward that we can refer back to that and say, okay, this is why we're paying this percentage? I know it's like sometimes a case by case, but I do worry that the next administration or two administrations down from now, it's all a process all over again. But if we have, I'm not saying they have to abide by any of that with whoever's in the other towns or our town, but it'd be nice to have that in place so we can say, this is why we did it in the past and this is how we're doing it going forward.
Yeah, well, I'd like to put that in writing. Mentioned by myself and first selectman. Why don't we put that? I put that in writing for us to come in and just to make it officially adopted. Anything on third-party taxation is more than 8% rated, and just to have but we put it in writing. Anything that's land in the trust is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So I'll be glad to put it in writing so we can adopt it.
Then there's the Board of Finance never, because I know it came up in our joint meeting at one point of how we figure that out, but if it's almost like a policy we have for this thing, and then we can just always say, yep, this is it, it's our policy.
Yeah, can I, Sean, can you ask your question for you? Microphone. When you and Nick were working with Legend and Preston, did you have a policy in place? I know Nick used to say, Nick said, no, something to pay for everything. And I don't know if that was true or not, but was there a policy on, so we're working at 3 different areas. And each area, did you have a policy on what North Stonington's portion was? It's on.
We didn't have a policy, a written policy or anything. There were, most of the times, the other towns, were given the opportunity to pay towards an invoice, and they, most of the time, they did not. Nick was willing to, move forward with anything, anything to do with travel recognition without their support. We probably get their signature on letters that went forward on behalf of the towns, but they typically weren't participating in the payment. They didn't have that. They did not at the time have anything in their budget for specifically for tribal recognition.
Well, budget carries a biggest number. I think they're carrying 50,000 in their budget. And Preston was like us, it was 5,000 last year, and they moved it to 10 this year. But that's what I had heard in the past, that North Stonington seemed to pick up more than their share. But and I can understand it with that one, the Eastern Pequot piece, since the reservation is in North Stonington. But on on the other two areas, especially the land and trust area, that is so, that should be evenly divided because it could happen anywhere. So,
I just had one question, if I may, one question. So you're asking for the exact amount that you need to pay an invoice
because
with zero left for the year?
yeah, left the year, we have $1,434.10. We already made a payment out of the $10,000 budget line.
So I mean, after you pay that, after you get approval from the town, pay that invoice,
Would be zero
you have zero for them until through the end of June.
to the end of June of the next year, or the next appropriation.
So, and then obviously you're aware that even if you wanted to come and ask for 5,000, it has to go to a town meeting next time.
Okay.
The second time you're going on the same line item, it's required to go to a town meeting. That's why I say you could be asking for $19,000 now to cover an invoice and possible expenses for the remaining of the fiscal year, and that would cover it.
So anything further, we go to a town meeting because we're already overspending the line, is that it? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, you're going forward to only pay for the invoice that you have.
Yes.
With nothing else and you could very well be including in your call an additional $5,000 to cover any expenses that come up between now and June 30th. And that way you wouldn't have to go to a town, wouldn't have to address this again. I mean, you don't even have half of the year over with.
Yeah.
And
because if we don't use it, if we put the 5,000 in the line item with the call and we don't use it, it just goes back into the general fund.
So we think that on the next town meeting, since we already approved this call, we have another town meeting coming up after the first of the year. We can put it.
So this has to go to a town?
I don't believe so. This goes to what finance. Why would this go to a town meeting?
No, and that's what Sean is saying. So what I think he's saying is instead of asking for the 14,900 blah blah blah, ask for 19,000 and put it's still under the 20. We don't have to go to a town meeting. We put 5,000 back in the line item, knowing full well that we might have to
But knowing
for additional appropriation.
Not knowing what that is, guarantees going to be more than 5,000 if we have to come back again in this
Like
fiscal
we
year.
have to go.
Yes. So, do we vote on this one?
No, we were
made a motion. Yeah, we were in discussion.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. 3-0. Next one. So Coach Stephen Bailey, ran a basketball clinic. And what he'd like to do is donate the money here into that clinic back to the Mueller Activity Fund for use for the basketball program. It's not something that normally had been done in the past. He has to have it. If we would approve that being done, so my accounting generals could give that money to the Mueller. Right now, the check was made out to Coach Bailey originally. And we give that money to the Wheeler Activity Fund and Coach's name as a donation.
Oh, so it's not an overage that they want them resent
No,
back to them.
he earned the money as being an instructor at the basketball camp. He
He's
runs
now
that.
wanting to make a donation back to
So for us,
the fund.
if we
Okay.
make the donation that way, so actually this came up and we'll have to do the same way. Drama asked me to look into it last week, the same thing. So when they run a camp, a lot of times they'll donate some of that money back to their
Yeah.
groups. So Mr. Barr has asked the same thing because what they were doing, and I don't know if Coach Bailey was doing, is they take the check and then they donate some money back or put some money back. But when we pay out 1099, they're paying taxes on those dollars. So this would stop them from having to pay taxes on money they're not really getting.
Okay,
And I'm assuming that's why we're doing it this way.
okay.
So just so you know.
So that does explain why, because I'm thinking, why do we have to get involved with somebody who just wants to make a donation?
Because if we pay them a check, you
Yeah.
know,
This,
Okay,
we will be seeing this again with Mr. Barr,
yeah, I think this is
which,
a great thing to have to,
yeah, and because I talked to her, a few months ago and found out she was donating money back. And it just doesn't make sense to have someone that's not taking that.
the amount of donation is $4,625.
I think it's very admirable on everybody's part. I'll make a motion to, actually, you make the motion because I think you understand it better.
Make $625 that would have been paid out to Coach Bailey to be donated to the Wheeler High School. What's the exact?
I think it's, donate back to the boys' high school basketball program into its activity account number 1075.
I'll second.
All things said.
Um,
I'm sorry, but
Before we move on, we voted, is there a way for us to make a policy regarding this, so that we don't even have to vote on those things? So it's cleaner and kind of more streamlined, so if we have a coach that's donating back to so it would be the school activity fund, right, for a program, either the school athletic or a school drama program, or anything that's going to the school athletic fund, that we can just authorize the bookkeeper to be able to do those. I don't know.
I would think it would be,
Want to look into.
it'd be easier, so we can look at that, Suzanne. It might be easier if we just had if you're trying to speak.
No, I think we can look into that. It'd be cleaner because it's coming out of the same account.
Right.
I mean, the donor, they collected the funds and they're paying the salary out of the same line item. So if we do the
Almost
policy,
like a weight.
right,
Yeah.
if they just put a request in writing to do the donation.
They can do a percentage of, so I know some will take part payment, but if they do, hey, if they check a box, I want to do 25% or half or a set dollar. And it's just a policy that we've approved as for selectmen, that you guys don't even need to come to us and ask.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll put them out and I got info if you need.
Sure.
Great. Okay, next, getting a tunnel repair. So the reason this came up is I went down to the tunnel. I know that a lot of people, maybe some people in this room say that back when we did the school building project, that the tunnel, other school building projects were to say, let's build these schools on one side of the road so we don't have to use the tunnel. Okay, that was the plan. And there's some plans that they just don't work. So what's happened with this plan is since that was used as one of the many reasons why we should build new schools on the inside of the road, the town is unsafe, blah, blah, blah. We have since added an alternative school to this building. We've added an early learning center to this building. The kids sometimes get walked. I've seen some ads where they're picking up kids and bringing them back and forth to the early learning center from the elementary school. The alternative school is in this building, and those children go back and forth depending on what's happening here versus across the street. We have people and teachers going, visiting the central office and going back and forth and walking on those days. And then we also have kindergarten, first and second graders coming to visit the library, usually once a month, and I'll see like 40 kids walking with 3 or 4 teachers, and they obviously don't want to cross the road with them, it'd be expensive to bus them. So the tunnel, after inspecting it, it's not crazily bad. I mean, it can be cleaned up a bit, but there's some stairs that have crumbled on the edges. Alan talked to A&J Landscaping, who has a division that handles this kind of thing, and they came up with an estimate. Now, I'm not saying that I want to use this estimate at this point, only nothing else but an estimate. $40,000 would fix the stairs, fix the railing. And Alan, maybe if you can just jump on for a second and talk about all the things you talked about with A&J. And I'll show you in the budget on the capital side where we have money to do. But if you can do that, and then I'll tell you what the next steps would be.
So the landings before you get the top step, if you're placing that landing, then like on this side, there's a hole in the concrete coming apart. So the jackhammer, the landings out on both sides, and I think it's 36 steps. You're gonna cut like a 3x3 or 4x4 square, depending on how deep the screws are. So these stairs used to have a piece of brass on top at the edge of it that you kind of, when you're walking, you see the different steps by the brass or the concrete. So when that got taken off, there was little bolts that used to hold the brass down that the epoxy, when the epoxy is popped, because the metal's rusted and expanded, close the epoxy part. So what they have to do is they have to cut like a 4x4 square out of the face of the step, put new screws in that act as rebar, but not that close to the surface that would let water get to it. So you pretty much have to rebuild every step. And then the landings on both sides and fix the sidewalk. There's no step or hinge, so it'll all be one nice flat surface. It is a little bit of work. The railings have seen some salt on the concrete where they throw salt on it to get rid of the snow and ice in the winter time. We were going to cut that out, put sleeves in the concrete, and put the railings back with supports back at the right height that they're at now. So it would get rid of the rust, bring them back to code to the right height and everything, and then it'd be new steps and then landings.
And so obviously nothing is ADA accessible.
Yeah.
And the fact that we are doing any construction or doing any improvements doesn't force us by any kind of law requirement to have to bring it up and provide ADA,
I don't believe you could even.
We asked that question, we grandfathered because the tunnel was used for so long. It's not a primary, it's not a primary use. It's not like when this was a school, that was a gym and we're going back and forth. It's used not as often as that, but we do, it can't hide the fact that people are using it. So what I wanted to do is, again, use this as an estimate. I wanted to see if the board of selectmen would be okay if I either put this out for a bid using this or an RFP using this. To say, we know it's somewhere around 40,000, maybe we can make less than that, but what they're proposing in this bid is what we need to have done, just to make it safe, because you can't deny people are using it. We have in town building repair and maintenance line, we have 59,825.63. I think this could be considered a bill on town maintenance because it's something we use on a regular basis. So it's a capital structure, correct? So I just want to see if there was any pros or cons on whether we could put this out to a RFP or a bid process to see if we can get the pricing and this work done, so we can get it done. I know there's caution tape covering half the stairs, and then you have to line the kids up to go to a narrow area and so on. So
I'm in favor of putting out for an RFP. So if we use the description of services here, one thing it says is removing existing landing step and installing new steps. But are we putting installing a new landing? So that's not in this. I'm just saying, but if we put it out for an RFP, wouldn't you want us?
We could change the wording before it goes up to an RFP and say the landing and the face of each step.
I just think we need to be as detailed as possible in that. How is the lighting and everything else?
the lighting's actually pretty good, and I could probably use a little touch up on things down there, but overall, I remember going, there's full of leaves and water, it's much cleaner than it used to be.
And this is nothing that we can request. Our highway department doesn't have this capabilities of doing this.
Replacing would be a huge project for us.
Are we continuing the mural? Is the mural still down there?
Oh, no, that's not part of the RFP. I think just something else down
You had just mentioned touching up the paint.
there. And just with its peeled.
Oh, okay.
To make it a little more user friendly.
Yeah. Last time I was in there, I thought there was a mural still down
Might be a few minutes.
Yeah, there's no way to it's secret.
Yeah, I don't think we can already in distance.
So since we had money in, so It's one of the capital for town building repair and maintenance. That doesn't make a good idea. Use it for this project, because this project's been in and out of capital over the years. And this might be a way to use it.
I mean, I do notice more and more residents utilizing the tunnel that are going either to the walking from the village over to
Yeah.
the trails, those kind of
Well,
things.
frights and lights,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, they were using that and crossing Route 2. It made me so nervous.
Is there anything from the state, or can we reach out to Heather or Senator Summers about, since it is bypassing the state road, that we might be able to get some DOT money towards it?
So we talked to the state about this earlier, I think a couple of years ago, and they really don't want any part of it. It's the idea was it was under a state road, but it's not, as you said, not ADA accessible. It's not they feel the town, decided they weren't gonna use the tunnel when we built the schools on the other side, and they really don't want any part of this structure.
And that was the people in those positions. It might be worthwhile just to reach out to
We'll reach out to Greg and see what it is,
Heather and see if they're pretty much doing it.
to see if we can get some sort of funding.
Yeah, even if it's a percentage or a reimbursement grant, something.
Myself for an RFP, get a price on it, and then if we get some additional funding somewhere.
Yeah, I think we could do it at the same time, is maybe the state has a program that'll come, make it ADA compliant.
I know AJ is in town, right?
Yes,
Is it awkward to see if they wanted to donate any of their labor to their town?
I think they're for-profit company, so.
If we could call it the A&J tunnel, I don't mind doing that.
Or plaque up. All right, I have no problem, putting it out for RFP. So,
It's all for an RFP, and at the same time, try to get a hold of reference, 76.
we have to make a motion and then.
We just have to vote on it to,
The RFP.
or,
So, yeah, so now if you come through.
but what's the timeline? Are we looking to do it this year?
Work still be done in the winter?
As I close the tunnel.
No, like we couldn't do the speed humps.
The asphalt, yeah, but this is out, actually, you close the tunnel and heat it while you're doing, putting heaters on the board heaters.
Yeah.
Working inside the
I
tunnel.
just didn't know if the concrete had anything to do in the
Yeah,
winter.
you can carry on. We actually talked about when I met with Kevin from Indian. We actually talked about doing one side, do one side of stairs, so you could still leave the tunnel accessible the whole time. Do one side, each side of the road, and the other side.
Okay, next.
Oh, Brian.
Brian? You want to say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right, remember, this is just to get prices. We're not voting to move it forward.
No.
No, you're just gonna get prices, but if you get prices over 40,000, does it have to go to town meeting?
We know the money's already been approved for town building maintenance and repair.
Because I remember when we were gonna do that school, it was right on it, and they were gonna close that.
Yeah,
Nero was very adamant about it, it's bad shape, so.
and that was the plan. But since then, things have changed, but the use of this building has changed since that time. So we do have young children, and we have, as the town, after we did the demolition, the village space where the building used to, there's more events. We'll always have music events. We still got graduation, frights and lights, some of those things didn't exist when we were doing the school building project. So we have people moving back and forth across Route 2. Since it's happening, there's no more efficient way to get them across than the top. We can't have them walking across the road.
I'm just saying, the town voted to close that thing. That school.
No, the town didn't vote to close it. The town voted to build the buildings, and one of the arguments of those that wanted the buildings built, the argument was that we wouldn't have to use the tunnel. The town never voted to close the tunnel.
I remember it being in the paper, it was part of the whole plan. I don't know if it changed, but, and I remember them saying that the state, they didn't like the tunnel because it went over. I just don't like the idea of this.
So what's your alternative plan, Ryan?
My alternative, I don't know what the plan is. That's because
Now, what would you say if we have, let's say we have 100 people moving back? and
I'll
forth?
tell you what Nero told us. He said he was gonna try
All
that.
right, so that's Nero, so he's now on the school committee president. So, well, today, as we look at this today,
Mhm.
the tunnel is being used. So it's easy to say, well, you told us we weren't gonna use the tunnel, and I was fine with that. I remember hearing these stories. But things have changed, so now what's the alternative plan? Should we run shuttles back and forth? What's the alternative plan if we close the tunnel?
What would the state say? It's their road.
Their road's
Right.
above the tunnel, we're below it.
Right. So, and I don't agree with it. It gets flooded, doesn't it?
That hasn't been flooded in a while.
But I think it's important to remember, and I know where you're coming from on it, I remember the building project as well. But it's not just students that utilize that. I mean, I utilize it when I'm over at the school and I have to come to a selectmen meeting. I do that compared to run across Route 2. Remember, it's a safety concern too. And our liability really outweighs the $40,000. Hopefully it comes in much less than that. That's what I'm hoping when we put it out and there's competitive bids for it. But I do think we need to remember the safety concern and liability concern. And even if the state was like, oh, we don't like it, we're not paying for it, shut it down, use Route 2. We all know how dangerous.
Did you
crossing
ask
Route 2
them? Did you ask the state what they would recommend?
But I think Bob's gonna try to get out some of that information. But one of the things that did come up, I think a few years ago too, is when they were talking about widening Route 2 or putting the sidewalks on Route 2, is they were looking to put a crosswalk at the elementary school across. So that means all your kindergartners or first graders that do go to the library, you know, the beloved library that you want to support, $1
Right.
will be crossing Route 2. We know we've had a car hit a bus. We know we've had people hit the fences. To me, the risk of our children's safety, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 people crossing that street, isn't worth it. And I think we should think about those things. I understand where you're coming from about what we said with the school building project and what was presented. It is slightly different now. But even if they misspoke when that happened, those young children are still going to the library, going to visit Bob in town hall, learning about the community. They're crossing Route 2, and I wouldn't want them crossing, even with a crosswalk, a stop sign, blinking lights. I just think it's not worth that risk.
Okay. I'm just saying. I think we're gonna get pushback. And I'm one of them that, like I say, when I'm told, vote for something, and then I see the things change. Why the hell do I even bother voting? You know, those are the things that hurt me most.
I understand. Be mindful what we talk about, make sure we have everything to go for. Right.
What account number is this? Are you proposing to take this out of?
Be on the 3230 on the capital project. 30. Which says it has a balance of 59,825.63.
I don't see it on your budget.
It's not, it's in past capital project savings. 3230, it's up near the top. The same sheet that we taken, that you have money for the demolition of the town buildings. It's not in the current, it's not in the current budget line item. It's money that's, again, we haven't put money into demolition of town buildings in years since you were the first selectman, but it's in there. Now we're finally using it. It's the same thing. It's money that was approved in capital in the past that goes into this project.
I think that's under the C 3.04
Okay.
is the same pot of money. And the number you're looking at there is like a QuickBooks number, not a budget account number, by the way. But what my concern here is that there's $40,000 that in a budget line item that, we taxed, and we added to that balance this year of $10,000
Mhm.
without any plans.
No, this plan is the painting of town hall, there's a painting of the 1750 house, there is a plan.
So what I'm saying is you've heard this before on that budget time. By not having basically, not only for the amount that's setting aside for this year. I mean, this was 10,000 that was addition that added to that.
Mhm.
At budget time, I feel there should be a list of projects that add up to that, not a slush fund of an extra $40,000.
I agree.
That, you know, and I've noted this at each budget season, that there should be a basis for the numbers, not.
And I think we did have one, when you asked me that question last year, I did come up with quotes for the painting of the old town hall building, the painting of the 1750 house. So those were the numbers that were supposed to be in the budget for this year. We have not done either of those projects.
I mean,
When we have a new highway foreman that can help us with that project and looks at the building. And we can take that to the buying.
so you're saying those other projects aren't getting done before June 30th?
They may not. I mean, I think that we're gonna try to get the town hall painted in the spring. I don't think the 1750 house will happen until after.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Hiring the town tax attorney. So we have a town tax attorney, Lloyd Langham. He's been with the town for a number of years. We just recently did a tax sale, the town tax sale, and we butted heads with the attorney on a number of occasions. Our tax collectors butted heads with him. He has since asked to, he's resigning as our town tax attorney. I guess, our tax collector holding his feet to the fire. And he made more money than the town did in the tax sales. So with that said, he is still helping us on the solar farm project that we're involved with, starting on. But as far as our tax attorney, he's pretty much done. He's going to give us affidavits for the tax sale that we completed, as of October, it was completed. But moving forward, we are looking to replace the tax attorney. Zane had worked with this gentleman, in Poland. His firm represents over 169 cities and towns in Connecticut. I've spoken with him. He'd like to become a tax attorney. He'd be glad to, and he already has sent a list of, I can get it to you, a list of all his fees, which was like pulling teeth to try to get that from, Attorney Langham. I know Brett tried, and I finally got them after asking on multiple occasions. I'd like to enter discussions on at least looking at hiring Mr. Cohen, since he's got so much experience with the season towns, and I can provide you with his fees of what he gets, which is different than Mr. Langham, Attorney Langham. So, I guess the question is, I'd like to change tax attorneys, and is there any reason why you see that we couldn't entertain working with Mr. Attorney Cohen?
When you say the fees are different,
Let me get you, I can get you a copy of the fees between now and our next meeting if you want to table a board on this. I get you those fees so you can identify. I'll email them to you so you can look at them over the week. Maybe we can vote on this at the 19th. That's good for you.
Yeah, I just, if you look at it, it says their hourly rates go from $210 an hour to $675 per hour. Chief partner, his hourly rate is $480. Paralegals are $125 to $280 per hour. How does that compare to that in the same ballpark?
I'm not sure. I know with Attorney Langham, we weren't getting $1 until he had all his fees paid ahead of time, which Mr. Cohen says that's not how he works.
Yeah, we can just vote on it, maybe just get that so we'll know where we were and we'll head going.
So you try to get Zane to put together what the fees were for one,
Yeah, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and then, any of the towns surrounding us, you said he represents 100 out of the 160.
This from 100 other, did you work with,
Yes, I worked with him in Chaplin. I don't know what his fees are offhand, but they were very efficient and they were a benefit for the town, so I would recommend them.
okay, let me get some more information from Zane, if she can get that together for us. And we can make a decision.
Is there a plan that
No.
before, I mean, we're having a meeting too.
Yeah, but we don't have, it's not, this, we don't have this, this is nothing pending that we have to work on. So pieces that, generally are working on now, that we have to, pull back.
You are not in jeopardy of violating any kind of contract or agreement.
He resigned,
It's easier.
we just say reps.
Like, is that a Bridgeport?
Yeah, but I'm not, that's what his farm is, yeah, Bridgeport also, Suzanne, or is he?
I'm not sure where he's located, but yeah, his farm is in Bridgeport, so, but he was always accessible to us when he had to come on site and what have you. It's not an issue.
Working travel time. So
Right, and
that's-
yeah, we'd have to check the fees if that's the case. Yeah.
An hour a day.
Yeah.
I will say that the new tax income doesn't pay for himself, so. Okay, I just know we have to make a change if it's not with Mr. Cohen's with somebody.
No, and I know Dave's talked very highly of him in the past, so I don't have a doubt that he'd probably be our great move. I just, I'd like to know if he charges us travel time. He does come on site.
I'm still. And discussion, so I just want to make it official, so we've discussed how we want to move over to the school, small. There is a sit down doing it at the senior center, the big van was used maybe 8 to 10 times a year, the small one is how they were used. At one point, the big van's tires started to dry out and rot because the van just wasn't being used.
Which van is it? But
Senior center.
Senior center, okay.
Senior center.
They have two. They have a small one and a large.
They never use a small one. And that large one is only used maybe 8 to 10 times a year. They just used it to go to the Good Speed Theater last week. And they do have a Christmas lights thing tour they're going on next month.
And how many people does the small one?
So I think it's 8 and the bigger one is 14 or 16.
Not give it to the school?
Well, that's what we're talking about. This is a discussion.
But I got the idea.
Got the light bulb go off.
Took me a little while.
So I put it to Israel. It's not, so as long as she gets first shot at the big van when she needs it, she promises me she can give me ample notice to get to the school. I talked to Troy, and he's fine with that. If we could give him a week or two's notice that the seniors want to use the van for this day. Most 4 of their 8 to 10 events happen in the summer when school's not even in session anyway. So there might be a conflict on, 5 or 6 other evenings or other days.
Maybe Alan, what kind of life expectancy are left in vans? Also, is there room at our highway garage to keep them under cover? I know we have like overhang,
So,
like these signs that, or some other stuff that are under cover. And I know I've seen these sit out at the senior center for 15 years. Is there a room for us to store them under cover to keep them a little better, but?
The big one, we could probably, that one's gonna, I think, not be used as much. I mean, the little van gets used, will get used pretty often as a school. I mean, I think they use it like 2-3 times a week. So right now, the school's commuting down to the senior center and then leaving her car there and taking the van back to school. She's running around like crazy. The van, I think, would sit a little bit more, well, less than it does now, of course. If the school used it, we could probably find somewhere. The van does have to be plugged in. It is diesel and needs a battery charger. They both have lift gates, but the van seems to start a lot easier being gas rather than diesel. We could definitely look into that.
So the bigger one's the one that has to be plugged in.
Yes.
So it's more like the bus. There's the van is the small and the bus is the bigger.
Yeah. I know the van off the top of my head, I thought it was crazy. It's a 2014 with just over 10,000 miles on it. I mean, it barely runs. So, I mean, it's good for the school to use it right now. The van, I don't remember exactly. I want to say it's just under 40,000, if I remember correctly, and that's a 2006. So, I mean, it's not, definitely not going to hurt them. I know we did tires for the bus last year, like Bob had said, because they were just getting dry rot from sitting. I've been trying to drive it once in a while if they're not using it, like I took it for a ride 2 weeks ago just to keep the tires around.
So we just recently undercoated the food van, the new food van. We undercoated that, and we're gonna be undercoating both the small van and the bus shop. Over here, as a driving control.
So yeah, like we do at the highway garage, just coating them. Now they're gonna get driven quite a bit more in the salt. I think it was good. I asked Bob, like, can we undercoat them, try to keep it for longer? Especially the bus and now has a van is really spotless for him right now. The bus I haven't claimed, to be honest. Yet.
So are we, I love the idea. I think it solves a lot of the problems and some of the capital expenses coming from the school. Will they be in charge of like not the maintenance itself, but the cost of maintenance? So when it needs new tires, is the school going to pick up that tab since we are giving them?
So do they pick up that tab now on their equipment? I mean,
I think they, right, so if the Boda or any of their stuff breaks down, are they paying?
So we fix it. I believe they pay for parts.
Right. So I would think we'd have the same.
Then you'd have to share it with the senior center at that point.
But if they're utilizing 3-4 days a week, it needs that. I just think if they were to buy their own, they'd have to budget for tires and those things. And if we're giving it, they shouldn't just be ours.
well, you say if they bought their own, and we want to eventually end up with all vehicles under the guidance of our highway department, so town vehicles, just like there's a town. I think that we're going to maintain them on a regular basis, so they shouldn't have the sitting around with things breaking because they're not being used.
Like, so what's the process with the food? If that breaks, who's paying that?
They bought it for $1.
Or given? I just think those should be clear as we move forward. And if it is us, then it's us, but we should make
So
sure.
you can work
And
with,
Alan would have to have that in his budget of maintenance,
so
but
you should work with Randy on that one. He meets with Randy on a regular basis now, so.
what about their van that their maintenance thing?
I believe they pay for parts and we.
And I just think we should be, consistent. Even though the senior center might use that on occasion, we've been letting them use it on occasion, but if they were to buy one, it just should be, there should be some budgeted dollars on one side or the other, but it should be.
So you come up with, before we do the budget, come up with a plan, Randy, on how it should work. So we mimic what we do on the maintenance van now.
So how, let me ask a question. How, in the past, with it being a senior van, have we always covered 100%, or does it come out of the senior budget? Like if it needed tires, who paid for tires? So then it would be asking them for a little bit more of their.
Okay.
I mean, it's all the taxpayer dollars. I just want to be consistent with it.
Move ahead and go.
Right.
Okay, they did, I saw Schwartz's going to put you in charge of getting person for wrapping this small thing. All right, so well, that's a good plan, Rick. I just want to get that official that we talked about. Makes sense, that just the capital budget just disappeared by student. Budget timeline discussion, we have that in your packet, we've already started. We're putting on the timeline in October, August 15th. October 7th, October 15th, and November 12th, which was the capital presentation which we just did. The NSAA and the school did not have to present because they had nothing in the capital. Tomorrow I'll be sending out the budget email and the budget requests that have to be in by January 17th, 2020.
Did the Board of Finance vote on this time?
Well, that's what I'm asking you is, I sent that to them and I know they were supposed to vote on it at their last meeting, but I think they might have tabled it. I've only got halfway through the meeting. And not voting
I
on
don't remember.
it. Is it their vote?
Technically, it's, if you look at that booklet from the state on Board of Finances, their timeline. Christine always kind of did it in the past and came up with it and said, hey, this is your timeline, but technically it is their.
So let them vote on it.
But one thing that we should keep in mind, and I know it was a problem last year, and I don't know if we looked at it when it was developed, but it did overlap some of the Board of Ed's.
Yeah, so Board of Ed on the Board of Ed's agenda for tomorrow night, they're gonna amend their meeting schedule for next year, using this as a guide. I said to the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed saying, hey, last year this was a problem. If we can work this out ahead of time. I also went and looked at when the school vacation was, holidays, and so this is up to date.
Are we visiting, the emergency services?
Last year we didn't because it was an election year, we had new people. We're not doing it. It was on here, so I just left it
Oh, yeah.
there.
Oh, okay, okay.
But we're in a non-election year, so maybe next year, if they use this as a guide, then we could put it back down. So they know we're not signing on that slab to use the tape. All right, so we're just gonna let, the Board of Finance do this thing, correct? Really sure we're talking. All right, old business, vacancies and appointments. We had an application coming in, you could have it in the packet, and Michael Kennedy will be appointed to the, sustainable Wisconsin committee. That's it. So Holly sent it to us. I asked if you needed to be here. And you said that's Amy's husband. You said you didn't care as long as we knew who he was. You were good with him. I know who he was. Are you all set?
Who's husband?
Amy Kennedy from the library.
Oh,
You know that one?
no, I don't know, but, I'm completely fine.
Yeah, well, he quite a resume. So now retired. He did something, but more active. Wives. Yeah, somebody, Emma. Had to drop it off. Thought there is time she might get back. But I thought this would be a good blow for Michael. He liked it. He liked the idea of it. So we would support him. I think he's good to go.
Yeah.
And have him stay in the So,
Control number, on sustainability.
I think it's some, it's not before again.
What's their, looking right now. So they have large numbers. So, yeah, I don't think. I just want to make sure we're not violating the old representation, because every one on there right now is a member of one party.
Are the, how many people?
Because they made it such a large board, it's 13, so we're not in violation.
This number, this would be the fourth or fifth member.
This would be the fourth member,
Okay.
and they're all from the same party, but it's all based on the number allowed on the board, not the number at.
Well, it's just a case where somebody wanted to be active.
I saw him he was at the, weekly conversation, or the, open house. So it's nice to see them active. I know Amy's been active for so long in town, you know, she hasn't lived here. Library, but it's nice to see now that they're official residents that they're talking about it. So I'm all in favor.
We're going to motion to
I'll make a motion.
appoint Michael Kennedy.
So move. You said it, I said, same motion.
It's fine there.
We've been going so long, we have to combine our efforts to make a motion.
Point Michael Kennedy to, sustainability.
I will second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mentions that him was going to get sworn. The other public comments.
I'm fading fast, Sean.
All right. I'm gonna disappear for a year. 6 months later.
Okay, you heard from a resident of Wrights Road today. Their concerns that the end of the road may very well be their property, not the town. Town road does not go all the way through. And the reason this is a concern is because there's a proposed recreation building being built on the reservation. They got some grant money. Basically, anyone going through that, they're proposing to use Wright's Road to get through there. So that I fully support their efforts in finding out who owns that end of the road. I also am concerned that it is the entire road is a private road on town property. It's not a town road that we receive any maintenance dollars from the state. It's never been added to that list, so we don't get any funding or whatever. But I think the town should be interested in this as well, because there will, if this goes through, there will be additional traffic on a road that is not up to par with our own road standards. And that we would be liable for, you know, that because they're not up to standards, there's an increased liability, you know, for the town. So I just think that the selectmen as a whole ought to insist that we find out whether the entire road does belong to the town or whether it's private at the end before it goes into the reservation. Do we want it to and also should know whether the reservation has a easement recorded on, you know, against our deed, giving them the right to pass over that route. Because it may very well not even be in there as access to the reservation. As you know, the Lantern Hill is the main entrance. There's only a couple of people that live on the reservation, but this new building would, as a result, there would be, you know, the remainder of the tribe that lives throughout North or wherever would be, they anticipate using Wright's Road. And we ought to be sure that we want them to, you know, want that to happen.
And they have their yearly powwow, don't they, Wright's Road?
I don't know.
I think so. Because it's on the side of the
That,
road.
I think it's a town that should concern us.
So I had residents visit me last week. I found some, I looked into it. I have them.
Okay.
My main concern is to find the original deed to see when the land was given a sold to the state that created the reservation, whenever that happened, I think it was 1853. When that happened, was there more than one right of way proposed? I know the Lantern Hill one, but they've got a big piece of land up there. Was there only one way to in, one way out? Or was there two ways? And that's what I'm trying to find when I get my hands on the original deed. I did get a deed sent to me by Patricia Oaks, but I couldn't see in that deed where it was spelled out if Wright's Road was right away or not. So I have to look more for it. So,
and at some point we should get the assessor's maps corrected for the road, where the road actually is today. Because if you look at the maps, the road does not go that direction. It's taken a new direction, and there's actually a gate across where the original road used to go through. So it's another one of those things that we know it's an issue now. We should address, you know, whether we want to, you know, whether we wanted to become an official town road and receive state funding, and we should reflect where it actually is on the map instead of the old maps.
so to come to an official town road, we'd have to upgrade it, correct?
We don't have to do anything to town. Technically,
You
no.
wouldn't have to.
We require developers to bring roads up to state to standard before they get accepted as a town road. But we have quite a few roads that are up to our own, you know, 25 foot from the center line. Yeah, we have quite a few.
Okay.
just touch on that. I know you mentioned in the beginning of public comments that we put that out there next week, but the meeting after that on the agenda. So,
On a future meeting, I said if it didn't happen on the 19th, I'd have to do something.
so I think maybe it's best that we target for a date and try to get that information.
So let's target it for December 2nd, because I don't have
Yeah,
enough time.
no, I know, I think that's what I was gonna suggest, either December 2nd, if we had to go one more, but I think it'd be beneficial to have whatever information you're working on for when we do have that discussion, so.
It's gonna be some, it's gonna be an effort to try to dig up this information, important information, because I, good chance I have to go back to Stonington to get it. Because if it happened prior to us becoming, we kept it prior to 1807, when that was a reservation, I don't know. I think it was 1853, I'm not sure. But if it's prior to 1807, it would be in Stonington, right?
Yeah, and I would think that we don't have to go that far, if the onus isn't on us to show that it's a right of way. If there's a right of way, it wouldn't be on us to say that there is, if there's no documentation, so. Okay, so yeah, we discussed it.
Okay. Good. Any other public comment? Yeah, our next meeting is scheduled for November 19th, which is right. We'll be for John.
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
They'll say aye. I have 9:14 now.